She pressed the barrel against his chest. "Don't move," she hissed, her voice trembling but fierce. Their eyes locked, his steady, hers burning with defiance and desperation. A bead of sweat slid down her throat, catching the dying light. Caleb's pulse quickened, heat stirring deep inside him. She was danger and beauty, a secret he couldn't unsee. From the ridge, shadows stirred. Riders. Dust rose like a storm. Who was she running from? And why, after swearing off caring, did Caleb feel his world tilt under her gaze? Could he walk away, or had she already claimed him? If this tale of the Wild West has you hooked, drop a like. Let us know where you're listening from. And subscribe for more stories where hearts and guns collide. Lila Dawn lay crumpled beneath a mesquite tree, her figure a shadow against the canyon's red glow. Caleb dismounted, boots crunching on dry earth. Her dress was torn at the thigh, revealing a deep, jagged wound. Blood seeped into the dust, dark as spilled wine. Her ankle was worse swollen, twisted, grotesque enough to turn his stomach. She tried to rise, breath hitching, chest straining. Against her blouse with each gasp. Pain carved her face, but her eyes dark, fierce, unyielding dared him to look away. Sweat traced her neck, glistening in the fading light. Caleb's hands hovered, hesitant, his pulse racing. "Can't walk," she murmured, lips trembling. He didn't ask twice. His arms slid beneath her, one hand at her knees, the other cradling her back. Her warmth pressed against him, her scent of sage and earth filling his lungs. She stiffened, then softened, body yielding to his strength. As he carried her, he felt the weight of her pain and something more. A forbidden pull that made his heart pound harder than the desert sun dot in his weathered cabin. Caleb laid her on the sagging couch, its fabric haunted by ghosts of a family lost to flames. Rough rancher's hands cleaned her wounds with surprising tenderness. Her ankle throbbed, her lips parted, her breaths uneven. He kept his eyes low, afraid of the fire they might spark if they met hers. "You don't have to do this, Lila," whispered, voice like sagebrush in the wind. Caleb stayed silent. Words felt dangerous. Days passed. She healed slowly, moving through his world like a shadow with a pulse. She was cautious, respectful, but alive in ways Caleb had forgotten. At dawn, she knelt by the creek, skirt hiked, hips swaying as she plucked wild herbs. Caleb, watching from the porch, let his coffee go cold. Longing gnawed at him. That night, her cooking filled his cabin with scents of sage and mesquite. For the first time in years, his meals tasted like more than ash, but questions hung heavy. In the heat, what secret made her eyes scan the horizon? One evening, Eli Boone rode up. Caleb's old friend wore worry like a second skin. "Folks are whispering," Eli said, his gaze flicking to Lila at the corral. Her dark hair streamed loose in the breeze, her arms taut as she worked a rope. Strong, sensual, untamed. "An Apache woman," Eli muttered. "You're stirring up trouble." Caleb's jaw clenched. "My land, my rules." "You don't know who's after her or what she's carrying," Eli warned. Lila overheard. Fingers paused mid-braid. She met Caleb's eyes. Trust flickered fragile as thread laced with fear. She hadn't told him everything, and he hadn't pushed. That night, by firelight, she sharpened a knife. The blade glimmered against her skin. "You don't trust me," she said. "I don't trust easy," Caleb answered, voice rough from years of silence. "But you're here, that's something." Her gaze stayed guarded, but her lips parted slightly. The air crackled between them, thick with unspoken wants. Caleb felt it a rope tightening around his heart. The next day, Caleb found tracks near the north fence. Boots too heavy for ranchers, too clean for locals. Someone was watching. He oiled his rifle, a vow heavy in his hands he'd sworn never to kill again. Lila noticed. "You saw something," she said flatly. "They're close." She didn't flinch, but her grip on the bucket whitened her knuckles. The silence between them stretched, heavy with everything unsaid. Caleb's heart pounded, not just for the danger, but for her. Arizona nights grew thicker with secrets. Lila's ankle mended, her step sure. At the well, blouse damp from labor. Her hips swayed with quiet challenge. Caleb watched, heat rising, knuckles tight on a pitchfork. She glanced at him, eyes bold, knowing. For a moment, the world was only them, two souls teetering on a knife's edge. Inside, the fire painted shadows across her skin as she ground herbs, blouse taut against her waist. Caleb lingered at the door, breath uneven. "You're staring." She teased, eyes daring him. He stepped closer, boots heavy on wood. "Ain't polite to stare," he muttered, though his gaze lingered on her lips. She rose, brushing past him. Heat radiated through the thin space between them. His calloused fingers grazed her arm, and she didn't pull away. Her breath caught, chest rising. The air between them stretched taut. Caleb's hand slid to her waist. She leaned in, lips parting, eyes fluttering shut. The hunger he'd buried since the fire clawed back to life. His other hand found her neck, thumb brushing the pulse racing beneath her skin dot. It was collision, want, and wound. Two broken souls pulled into the same storm dot. His lips hovered near hers, breaths mingling, the air alive with heat. Then crack. A twig snapped outside. Too deliberate for a coyote, Caleb froze, hands slipping from Lila's waist. The spell shattered. His gaze darted to the window where moonlight glinted on steel. "Stay here," he growled, reaching for his rifle. But Lila's hand caught his wrist firm, steady. Her eyes were wide, not with fear, but with resolve. "They're here," she whispered. Her body trembled from their almost touch, yet her voice was iron. She drew a knife from her belt, its blade glimmering in the firelight, her curves carved. In shadow, as she braced herself, Caleb's heart thundered, not just for the danger, but for her. This woman who had roused something he thought long dead. He slipped onto the porch, rifle raised, tracks in the dirt. Boots heavy, fresh, leading toward the canyon. Silas Kane's men. They'd come for Lila, and they would not stop. A shadow shifted by the corral. Caleb's finger tightened on the trigger. "Not yet," Lila murmured, hand on his shoulder. Her breath warmed his ear, her body pressed close. For a heartbeat, fire flared between them again. She nodded toward the ridge, where another figure crouched in wait. "They're circling." Her lips brushed his jaw as she spoke, unintentional, but searing. They ducked back inside, hearts racing, the air thick with both menace and the echo of their near kiss. Lila pressed the knife into his palm, her fingers lingering on his. "We need a plan," she said, steady now, though her chest still rose and fell with unspent heat dot by the fire. They plotted. Her Apache cunning machete with his rancher's grit. Traps drawn in dirt and memory. Caleb's eyes stole to her hair loose, skin glowing in the flames, and he knew he was slipping. The danger outside was real, but the danger within loving again was worse. That night, the desert held its breath. Caleb crouched by the corral, rifle steady, eyes scanning the canyon's edge where shadows prowled like wolves. Beside him, Lila knelt, knife glinting, breath quick. The air hummed with the ghost of their almost kiss. "They want what I carry," she whispered, fingers brushing his arm, sending a jolt through him. She hadn't said what relic, map, truth, but it had made her a target. And now, him 2.Dawn broke cold and gray. From the brush came Taza, Lila's kin, his face grim. "Kane's got 8 men," he warned, handing her a leather pouch. Its weight was heavy, secret. Her hands trembled as she tucked it into her belt. Caleb's eyes betrayed him, tracing the motion. "They'll come at noon," Taza said, vanishing. Into canyon shadows, Lila turned, hair whipping in the wind, curved sharp against morning light. "I can lead them away," she said, voice steady though her eyes pleaded. Caleb's jaw clenched. "You leave, they'll hunt you forever. This ends here." She started to protest, but his look silenced her, a look that said he'd died before. Letting her go, they set traps. Lila strung mesquite thorn tripwires, her skirt riding as she crouched, her hands deft and sure. Caleb rigged snares near the canyon mouth. Their work bound them. Glances waited with promises neither dared speak. By midday, dust rose on the horizon. 8 riders. Silas Kane at the lead, scarred face twisted with hate. "Halt!" he barked, dismounting. His coat flapped like a vulture's. "Wings. Hand over the Apache girl and her trinket." Caleb stood firm, rifle leveled, Lila at his side with her bow drawn. "She's under my protection," Caleb said, voice hard as steel. "Step off my land." Kane smirked, his men spreading wide. "You know me, Holt from Abilene. You left me for dead." The words struck like a bullet. Abilene, blood, regret. Lila's eyes flicked to him, questions burning, but she held her ground. The first trap snapped mesquite thorns, slashed a rider's leg. He screamed. Chaos erupted. Caleb fired, dust exploding at Kane's boots. Lila loosed an arrow, pinning. A man's hat to a post. Pistols roared, bullets tearing the dirt. They dove behind a trough, her body pressed close, breath hot on his neck, her scent of sage and sweat filling his head. "We can't hold them," she hissed, nails biting into his arm. He met her eyes burning. With fear, fire, and something more, his last vow broke. For her he would kill again. Stay low. He searched up, rifle cracking. A man dropped, clutching his shoulder. Lila sprang forward, knife flashing, cutting a rope that loosed rocks onto 2 riders. Gunfire thundered, shouts echoed. Dust choked the canyon. Caleb's world narrowed to her, keeping her alive. Kane charged, pistol aimed at Lila. Caleb tackled. Him. They crashed into the dirt, fists flying. Kane's knife scored Caleb's arm, blood seeping, but rage carried him. He pinned Kane, fist raised. "Enough." Lila's voice cut through. She stood over them, bow drawn, hair wild, chest heaving, the pouch at her belt gleaming. "Take it and go." She tossed it at Kane's feet. He snatched it, grinning. "This ain't over, Holt," he spat, mounting up. His men limped after, swallowed by dust. Caleb staggered upright, blood dripping, heart hammering. Caleb's heart pounded. Lila's hand found his soft, electric. Her eyes shone with more than gratitude. "You could have died," she whispered, voice breaking, body close. Heat radiated from her skin, pulling at him. He wanted to draw her in, lose himself in her, but the pouch was gone, and with it her secret. What had she sacrificed, and what would Silas Kane do with it? The ranch was quiet, but danger still lingered. Caleb knew it. So did she. They stood hand in hand, the desert watching, waiting for their next move. As the Arizona sun sank low, painting the canyon in fire and shadow, Caleb Holt sat on his porch, arm bandaged, the ache of battle still burning through him. Beside him, Lila Dawn's dark hair caught the breeze, her blouse soft against her skin, the curve of her shoulder glowing in twilight. The pouch was gone, given to Kane to end the bloodshed, but its weight lingered in her guarded eyes. Caleb felt it, the unspoken cost of her sacrifice. Yet her hand rested in his steady, anchoring him to something he hadn't known since the flames consumed his past. They have fought, bled, and stood together. Now the ranch no longer felt empty, it felt alive. Days slipped into weeks. Lila stayed, her ankle healed, her presence weaving into the rhythm of the land. She planted desert herbs behind the cabin, her hands working the soil with quiet promises of roots taking hold. Caleb watched, his heart stirring, no longer resisting the pull. She taught him to read the stars, her voice soft as she traced constellations with a fingertip, her hand brushing his. He showed her how to mend fences, her laughter ringing when she fumbled the wire, her eyes bright, chest rising with each breath that stirred a forbidden heat in him. They never spoke of love, but it lived between them, in the way she waited for him on the porch, in the way he carved a small wooden charm. For her, a silent vow, word of their stand against Kane spread first whispers, then a tale. Some sneered, prejudice sharp. Others saw truth, a cowboy and an Apache woman, two broken souls who had found each other. Eli Boone brought news. Taza had returned to the Apache village with a warning. Kane would not stop. Lila at last confessed the pouch had held a map too. Sacred land, a secret her people would die to protect. She had given it up to save Caleb, but her eyes flickered with hope. We'll take it back, she vowed, her hand squeezing his. Caleb nodded, knowing the fight wasn't over. But for now, they had the ranch, the piece they had carved together. One night, under a silver moon, they sat close. Lila's head rested on his shoulder, her warmth seeping into him. The desert stretched wide, its silence no longer heavy, but full like a song. Caleb's fingers traced the charm at her neck, her skin soft beneath his touch, and he felt it, redemption, not just for her freedom, but for his soul. He had lost everything once, but Lila had given him reason to live again. The horizon glowed, a new road unfolding. Danger still waited, but they would face it together. A single star burned bright against the dark sky, a beacon for what lay ahead. If this tale of love and grit on the Wild West frontier moved you, drop a like, share where you're listening from, and subscribe for more stories of hearts forged in fire. A super thanks keeps these tales alive so we can bring you more from the desert's edge.